those of you that are on the martial arts circuit, you probably might recognize Joe not only from the show, but some years ago he was a main competitor in a lot of the different martial arts, Bill Viola's tournaments and Caligiuri's tournaments and what have you, traveling, competing in that. Also did some fight choreography for some local productions and what have you. So therefore, obviously we're going to talk to Joe about some fighting movies, specifically boxing movies, which is something near and dear to your heart, especially the boxers involved. There's a movie coming out soon called Bleed for This. It's an interesting little tale, and I think before we start our discussion, let's take a look now at Bleed for This.
I feel like I should be on a box of Wheaties doing a Gatorade commercial. Jimmy!
Tasmanian devil is in Kent County Memorial Hospital tonight with a fractured neck.
If you let me do the fusion, I can guarantee you'll be able to walk again.
I need to be able to fight again.
Me?
And not fusing my neck.
With this severe of an injury, one bump, one fall, any kind of movement, and your spinal cord could sever.
Now, Joe, that's a boxing story that's kind of near and dear to your heart. You kind of remember that?
Yeah, I remember it. You know, it's been a while. Vinny Pazienza was one of our countrymen. And, you know, you always had this, somehow this subculture of Italians in boxing that were known as fighters that just wouldn't die, never go down, never say quit. And Vinny was one of them. You know, you had Boom Boom Mancini. Of course, you can go back to Marciano and Graziano and, you know, all those guys. But yeah, Vinny was one of them. And this looks to me to be pretty close, you know, factual. Yeah, it's going to, like good boxing movies, it's going to grab the heartstrings. That's what makes a good boxing movie.
Well, boxing movies, they never die in the theater. And last year alone, we had two movies that came out that were vying for Oscars. And that, of course, is Creed, which was the continuation of the Rocky, another chapter in the Rocky episode. And there was Southpaw,
Right.
With Jake Gyllenhaal. With you know, they were hoping he would get bumped up to an actor for that. It didn't happen, but it still was pretty powerful film. Is it just that underdog story about the boxing films, or is there something more intrinsic that people will lay their money down and buy the ticket?
I think, and I don't take credit for this, Stallone actually said when he did the original Rocky that, you know, he wanted to do the story of the, you know, the underdog that could just rise from nowhere and accomplish something that nobody thought possible. And he actually toyed with other scenarios before he wrote Rocky. You know, in different sports or different social situations when he could make this guy, be it a politician or whatever, just rise from nothing to become a champion. But nothing has quite the effect as a boxing movie because it's sport, it's one-on-one, it's, you know, never just about physicality or strength or skill. There's that heart. There's that heart of a lion, so to speak. And I think that's the difference. That's what sets boxing movies aside from other movies, and that they can grab at the heartstrings. And really, I guess people can relate better to it because it's one-on-one. It's not a team. You know, there's great football movies, baseball movies, whatever. But in boxing, it's different because it's just you. You're there, one-on-one, man-to-man, and that's it. No, once the bell rings, it's just you.
Now, I know when boxing movies come out, you're one of the first people to go see them. You like those types of films. So if you look back over all the boxing movies that you've watched, which is considerable, which are your favorites and why?
Yeah, you know, the ones that are not strictly about boxing, but about a story as well, like the original Rocky. You know, and then those movies kind of, you know, went off onto their own thing with, you know, fighting different giants and obstacles. And, you know, you had the bad guy with Mr. T, you had the Russian with Dolph, you know, Lundgren. But they were never as popular as the original. Until you got to the last one, Rocky Balboa, where he comes out of retirement and went back to his roots. And I think those are the boxing movies that I like the best, are the ones that are just not about boxing, but have a real American, do or die story behind them. Even Raging Bull was that way. Jake LaMotta, his life was a train wreck.
Yeah.
And that was the part of the movie, even though De Niro lost all the weight, gained it all back, trained like a boxer, looked like a boxer. It wasn't that as much as it was telling that whole story of rags to riches to rags. Even Rocky Balboa in those stories lost all the millions and was down to living by himself, and then he rose back up again. And Creed last year, I thought was a great movie in that series. It followed the same path as the original, and that was, Rocky would, that movie got people, grown men, crying in their seats, and it's a boxing movie, so that's the difference.
And for those of you that might not, for those of you who are fans of this show, and you go back past the decades with us for a long time, you might not remember.
You've been doing this show a long time.
I have been doing this show a long time. 88 we started. it's that long. You might remember the Kicking Kritic. And I guess now we can let the cat out of the bag that it was Joe who was featured as the Kicking Kritic and gave all those surly reviews that I wrote the script for him for. But it was him doing all the martial arts activities and stuff. And for you folks in Bethel Park that go back and remember when we did the Halloween specials over at the Lions Club, we did those for the benefit of myasthenia gravis and ran it through the police department with Officer Len Zankel. And those raised a lot of good money. You might remember Joe as the intrepid inspector who tried to figure out what was going on in all those Halloween specials. So.
I was hoping you weren't going to bring that up.
Well, I did.
Yeah, so now we might have to do another one.
Yeah, we
just might.
Like Rocky.
Yeah,
come
like
out
Rocky,
of
come out of it.
and rise to the top
Come
again.
rise again. Those were a lot of fun. I
They were.
really had a good time doing those.
Yeah, they were. And they were for a good cause,
They
too,
were.
so
Great cause.
It was worthwhile. We don't do this all the time, having people stop by, but when they do, it's nice to get them on camera, and especially someone like Joe, who has been affiliated with Outtakes in one form or another for a long, long time. And again, many of you probably remember him as the Kicking Kritic. We should even think about bringing him back again. He was an awful lot of fun, along with Rex Reel and that.